Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from one of Spain's most revered saints, Saint Teresa of Avila, a spirited doctor of the Church. Join me, Amy Thomas, once a week as we read from Saint Teresa's book, The Interior Castle. Hello, Catholic pilgrims. It's good to be back here with you for another reading. Part of me just wanted to finish off this chapter today and plow through 9 numbers, but as I was reading, I realized that this is a dense section, and I would lose people's focus, including my own, if I tried to just plow through it. And so I must warn you that today's readings are not the easiest to grasp on first blush. It's okay though. It's okay. When I first became Catholic, I started reading all kinds of Catholic books. Early on, I sat down and thought I'd just thumb my way through the Summa. And my goodness, that was a terrible idea. It wasn't terrible because the Summa is terrible by any means. No, it was a terrible idea to sit down and read it because I had zero foundation to work off of. Imagine that you had spent your entire life watching Sesame Street, and then someone plopped you down to watch Citizen Kane or Schindler's List. You would have no earthly idea what was going on or how to even understand the concepts being presented. Or imagine you'd only ever read Dr. Seuss, and then after years and years of reading nothing but Dr. Seuss, you were handed A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. You wouldn't make it very far. For me, growing up, Christianity had been so surface level that I had nothing to work off of when I tried to read the Summa. There was no meat to my theological understanding of anything. I'd only ever been fed appetizers. And so when I read St. Thomas's Summa, I was utterly lost. I needed to back up a few hundred steps and gain some foundational knowledge before tackling something so deep and intellectually rigorous. The Dr. Seuss reader needs to be handed an easy chapter book, and then a more complex chapter book, and then more complex, until they can work their way to something like A Tale of Two Cities. But the cool thing is, once you start down this path of knowledge, you will look back and see just how far you've come. Things that were once hard concepts to understand will become easier, and you'll find that you can even explain them to other people where you couldn't before. I say all this to prepare you for reading things that might stretch your brain a bit. Don't give up on it. And sometimes things just need to marinate in our minds for a while until we can work out the kinks and start to make sense of it. So don't worry if our reading today is not crystal clear to you. Be patient with yourself. Allow yourself to hear what St. Teresa has to say, and be okay with maybe not fully getting it all at once. So we will be reading from the Sixth Mansion, Chapter 1, Numbers 19 through 23. Before we begin, a word from our sponsor, Chrism Press. Did you know that Catholic fiction didn't die with Flannery O'Connor? Have you longed to read quality Catholic stories that speak to the 21st century? Look no further than Chrism Press. Chrism Press seeks to open doors wide to smart, fun, faithful fiction of any genre. The name chrism comes from the anointing oil used in Catholic sacraments and represents the idea that stories have the power to anoint our imaginations and lead us closer to God. Chrism Press publishes spirit-filled fiction in all genres for adults and teens. So why not join Chrism Press on their mission to bring great Catholic and Orthodox stories to readers everywhere? Please visit chrismpress.com, and if you use the coupon code PILGRIM15, you'll receive 15% off your first order. Okay, let's read Numbers 19 through 23. If the soul seeks for consolation from its confessor, all the demons appear to help him to torment it more. A confessor who dealt with a person suffering in this manner thought that her state must be very dangerous, as so many things were troubling her. Therefore, After she had recovered from her trials, he bade her tell him whenever they reoccurred. However, he found this made matters worse than ever. She lost all control over herself. Although she had learnt to read, yet she could no more understand a book in the vulgar tongue than if she had not known the alphabet, for her mind was incapable of acting. In short, there is no other remedy in such a tempest except to wait for the mercy of God, who, unexpectedly, by some casual word or unforeseen circumstance, suddenly dispels all these sorrows. Then every cloud of trouble disappears, and the mind is left full of light and far happier than before. It praises our Lord God like one who has come out victorious from a dangerous battle, for it was He who won the victory. The soul is fully conscious that the conquest was not its own, as all weapons of self-defense appeared to be in the enemy's hands. Thus it realizes its weakness and how little man can help himself if God forsake him. This truth now needs no demonstration, for past experience has taught the soul its utter incapacity. It realizes the nothingness of human nature and what miserable creatures we are. Although in a state of grace from which it has not fallen, for, in spite of these torments, it has not offended God, nor would it do so for any earthly thing. Yet so hidden is this grace, that the sufferer believes that neither now nor in the past has she ever possessed the faintest spark of love for God. If at any time she has done good, or if His Majesty ever bestowed any favors on her, they seem to have been but a dream or a fancy, while her sins stand clearly before her. O Jesus, how sad it is to see a soul thus forsaken, and how little, as I said, can any earthly comfort avail. Do not imagine, sisters, if you are ever brought to such a state, that rich and independent people have more resources than yourselves in these troubles. No, no. To offer such consolations would be like setting all the joys of the world before people condemned to death. Far from mitigating, it would increase their torture. So with the souls I spoke of. Their comfort must come from above. Nothing earthly can help them. This great God wishes us to acknowledge His sovereignty in our own misery, an important point for those who are to advance still farther. What can the poor soul do if such a trial lasts for many days? Prayer makes no difference as far as comforting the heart, which no consolation can enter. Nor can the mind even grasp the meaning of the words of vocal prayer. Mental prayer is out of the question at such a time, since the faculties are unequal to it. Solitude harms the soul, yet society or conversation is a fresh torment. Strive as the sufferer may to hide it, she is so wearied and out of sorts with all around that she cannot but manifest her condition. I cannot stand cheesy Christian movies. I mean, I prefer them to some of the filth out there on the TV, but I don't particularly enjoy watching them. They are predictable, unchallenging, and too neat. They portray the Christian life as always going just the way you want if you just pray and are a good person. The strife experienced by the characters is mild, and there's always an easy fix. The spiritual life is presented as a tidy, neat little package that always has a feel-good ending. And many people were horrified by watching the film Father Stu, starring Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson. They were horrified because it was a raw look at the conversion of a desperately lost and hurting man. And look, I don't like cuss words and vulgar language. I don't like the Lord's name being taken in vain. I don't use those words myself. I used to, but I don't anymore. But Father Stu wasn't a cheesy Christian film where characters said, gosh darn or gee whiz when things didn't go their way. It was an accurate portrayal of a truly sunk soul making its way to conversion through Christ, which isn't often very pretty. Father Stu was wildly relatable to a lot of people. He was relatable for me. People need to see that there's hope for people that are truly uncouth, foul-mouthed, and grave sinners. They need to see that you wrestle with God and His teachings, and it's not easy to come to Christ sometimes. A lot of weakness has to be burned off, and it can be a bit ugly. I can't relate to the people in the tidy, commercialized Christian movies. Now, maybe you still hate that movie. That's fine. You don't have to love it. But there is a deepness there that is missing from much of Western Christianity that people actually need to see. And Christianity can't just be about Noah's Ark and rainbows and Father Abraham had many sons and Jesus will always puff sunshine and flowers your way. That's just not full and complete. So we see here with St. Teresa, sometimes a soul very close to God feels a darkness, a forsakenness that can't just be worked out through a quick prayer and a skip in our step. St. Teresa tells us that sometimes we are going to go through a tempest that, quote, no earthly comfort can avail, unquote. She even says that sometimes, quote, prayer makes no difference as far as comforting the heart, which no consolation can enter, nor can the mind even grasp the meaning of the words of vocal prayer, and mental prayer is out of the question at such a time, unquote. This isn't to say that we shouldn't pray, but it is to say that sometimes it may not comfort us or give us consolations. There are trials and hardships in the Christian life that are true spiritual battles, and there will come a time when you will feel alone in that storm. And I keenly felt this when I was 17. Not because I was in the sixth mansion and particularly close to God, but because I wasn't prepared for storms in the Christian life. I only understood the Christian life as feel-good fields of flowers that we all prance around in. I felt abandoned and forsaken, and I had no idea what to do with my faith once that happened. I was ill-equipped. And so we need to understand and be confronted with the realities of the mystical spiritual life. St. Mother Teresa felt a darkness of the soul. St. Padre Pio was tormented by demons. Our Mother Mary's heart was pierced with swords. How do you go through these things and survive your faith? Well, we hear from people like St. Teresa, who prepare us for such things and help us to know that God is not gone. At some point it will pass, and we are totally dependent on Him. And maybe you can't relate to what St. Teresa is saying here today. Maybe you've never felt a state like what she is describing, and that's okay. You don't have to go out and seek it. I don't necessarily think all of us will face something like this, but it does help to still know and learn about it so that we might help others who are going through a tempest. So we'll stop here for today. If you have time, maybe read over these readings again. I don't fully understand them myself, and it may be a while before I do, and that's okay. Learning is a journey. So have a good day, Catholic pilgrims. I'll see you back here soon. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.